Hello viewers, so today we have two very special guests amongst us, right from the United States of America, and they are here to join us in the US and Canada Education Expo of Kanan.co. So we have with us Mr. Mark S. Kopenski, the President of the Global Student Recruitment Advisors, representing hundreds of US higher education institutions, and Mr. Greg Macdonald, who happens to be the Interim Director of Global and Graduate Enrollments at the Rochester Institute of Technology, New York, US. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thanks for
to be
having
here.
us.
So how was the trip?
We just got in this morning, so we're trying to figure out how long we're going to stay awake, right, Greg?
I did 2 8-hour flights. He did one 16-hour flight. But yeah, we're feeling it this morning.
It's all good. It's good to be here with
It's fun.
Kanan, and
This is my 4th time in India, but my first time to Gujarat.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. I just heard before this conversation began that Mr. Kopenski has been visiting India since 1981, if I'm not mistaken.
long time.
Long time. I guess most of us right here in this setup were not even born at that point of time.
What you're saying is I'm old. I get it.
No, just we were born too late.
It's changed a lot, that's for sure.
My first trip to India was in 1993, so 31 years.
31, 32 years back.
Yeah.
I guess half of us were born at that time.
Just. Yeah.
Just. Sir, so this conversation basically brings us to quite a few important questions that probably a lot of students and parents, especially in this part of world, would want to hear. And nothing better than when it comes directly from someone who is into that system, too close into the system. The first basic question that a lot of students and parents, when they visit us for the first time, is that how can the students, international students per se, who go to the US, they can make the most of their academic opportunities when they go to the US. Greg, if you would want to answer that.
Be happy to answer that, and that's exactly what I did 35 years ago when I came to the U.S. For graduate school. And I was coming from a much shorter distance, just across Lake Ontario near Toronto. But the experience I had was just like a kid coming from Delhi or Mumbai. When I got to campus for my graduate program, I really hustled to create opportunities for myself because I really didn't have the funding behind me to do that. But Mark has heard this before. Without a doubt, America is the land of opportunity. And if you hustle and put your mind to it, you can find graduate assistantships, you can find academic scholarships, you can find employment opportunities during the academic year. At my home institution, Rochester Institute of Technology, we're known for our strong co-op programs and internship programs. And now, for students who complete a STEM-related degree, they can have 3 years of work in the United States upon graduation. And for many students, that's a game changer.
Mark, if you would want to share your inputs regarding.
Yeah, no, I would agree with Greg. I mean, the reality of it is there's over 4,000 universities in the U.S. I mean, just in New York State alone, there's 150 schools. So the choice and the opportunity is vast. And most of this comes down to students getting up and going and taking something, going and doing something. Whether you're an American student, an Indian student, or a student from anywhere. If you sit in your room, if you never go out and try something different or new, how do you ever know? But the vast amount of opportunity in terms of the number of schools and what there is to do is incredible. It's the biggest system in the world. If you think about Australia, the UK, Canada, Europe, put all of those universities in one basket, you still don't have as many universities as you have in the US. So, the opportunity today is incredible, and it's a matter of students taking the first step, which is why we're here at this fair with Kanan to introduce these students to all those opportunities.
Because in the last half a decade, when we've conducted such events on such a scale, to me also this event comes as a wind of change, because earlier that used to be lots of inquiries for Canada, but this is the first event where I'm seeing a majority of the students being curious about their higher academic opportunities at the US, which is a positive sign for all of us. And moving further, if I were to ask both of you, beginning 2025 and beyond, which programs, academic programs across all fields of study, would you consider as the ones that are in high demand? And what should be the academic preparation of the student backed by the financial preparation?
Certainly STEM-based programs at the undergraduate and graduate level are in demand. They've been in demand and they'll continue to be in demand. And we don't even know all the programs in the STEM area that are going to be in demand because there's all this new, modern and new technology coming out. How do you prepare? I was telling a young man earlier today, when I was at university, we had no computers. We certainly didn't have these. Well, how do you prepare for a world where this stuff is going to exist if it doesn't exist? And then we took it a little bit further. How do you prepare in 10 years if students are going to Mars or Jupiter, to other planets, for goodness sake? I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but in 10 years, maybe not so much, So I think students being aware of where the world is going, not where it's sitting right now, is important. And, there are a lot of other areas in healthcare and social sciences and humanities. And I encourage students from around the world to look at those areas too. Everybody talks a lot about STEM, and I understand it's important, but all of these other disciplines are also important. And in the US, with the big, vast system you have there, all of these programs are readily available. And in some cases, scholarships abound in the humanities, the social sciences, areas of business, areas of healthcare. And students just need to reach out to people like us and find out what those opportunities would be.
At my home institution, we take it one step further. Yeah, of course, STEM is on the tip of everyone's tongue right now, but we actually divide them with what we call new economy majors. It's not specific to STEM, but this is where it's clear world economies are going, and why students should be thinking about jobs that are going to be here when they're completing their bachelor's degree. But I think that's one thing that RIT does especially well. They get families and students thinking about where is the economy going, and how can we prepare our students to be at the top or to be at the front of that line when those opportunities come.
I would also add that in the US system, and this is very different than Canada or the UK or Australia or really any other system in the world, regardless of what you're studying, let's say you're going into cybersecurity or computer science or what have you, at the undergrad or grad levels, the US system forces you out of that box to look and study other things. And that's really important because something like religions of the world, affects all of those particular industries, or economics, or politics, for goodness sakes. And if you have a well-rounded exposure to all these areas, you're going to be a better computer scientist. You're going to be a better doctor. You're going to be a better business person, because you're able to ebb and flow in all of these disciplines rather than just knowing something about one discipline. And when that discipline changes, your skill set is irrelevant.
I was just about to ask you that over sort of vast experience that you guys have had over the years, have you seen any programs that have just become obsolete? I mean, just 10 years back, that program was something that was quite in demand, but it is no longer relevant in the current economic perspective. Because we do read a lot of articles wherein jobs related to bank clerks or librarians, data entry specialists, these jobs are no longer relevant, and some of these jobs even belong to the STEM category. 10 years back, I guess data entry was something that was a lot in demand. It's no longer the case. That also again somehow brings us to a junction wherein the students always are in demand and curious to know about the high demand programs, the top 5 programs if they were to select. So we generally we tell them it is mostly related to ITs and computer sciences, engineering programs, life sciences and business administration. Is there anything more specific to this list?
You got me thinking about these young people in those particular disciplines, back to STEM, and the fact that they're probably going to put themselves out of a job in a lot of these areas you just talked about. Once artificial intelligence firmly comes in, many of the jobs you mentioned will become obsolete because AI will do them. But they will then lead to other jobs, other opportunities. And it's being nimble that's most important.
And maybe even enrollment management, what's been our profession. Um, I think there is a strong likelihood that AI will be a big part of how we manage enrollments, at both the graduate and undergraduate.
Correct, correct. Hopefully it acts as a catalyst, between us and the students.
Hope I'm wrong on that one, but
Well, I mean, the world is constantly changing, and I think the point in all of this is be adaptable. And the only way you can be adaptable is get out there and expose yourself as broadly as possible. Don't stick to one thing because, again, 10 years from now, we don't know what the world is going to look like. So you need to prepare for as much of the unknown as possible.
investing in yourself in times of uncertainty is always a good investment, whether it's at the graduate level or the undergraduate level. When you don't know what's coming, keep educating yourself. One of my favorite terms is FFTB, fortune favors the bold. And that means, always looking ahead and figuring out, especially again in times of uncertainty, how you can best position yourself to take advantage when the new economy and the new opportunities emerge.
Agreed, agreed. Mark and Greg, again, this question comes to both of you. We do read a lot of statements from the US consulates and the embassy here in India. They've been highlighting the statements in the top newspapers in this country, wherein the submission of fraudulent documents is a matter of huge concern. And when the embassy has to address this to the entire country via the media, it is something serious. I would certainly like to know from both of you how serious is this and how these concerns can really get addressed at the ground level.
Yeah, well, I'll take a shot at that. I mean, this isn't just limited to India. There's fraud in the United States. There's certainly fraud in other countries that students are coming from. I think one of the things that students can do, and is important to do, is have a master guide, in this case here in India. So we have Kanan International. They have a large professional network of counselors that are here to help support students and do things properly, not fraudulently, to get where they want to go, whether that's the US or UK or Canada, it doesn't really matter. I mean, doing things right is doing things right because all those other governments are going to have the same concerns. If you cheat, and again, back to technology, it's getting easier and easier to cheat, but it's getting easier and easier to determine if somebody is cheating. So it's a race, it's a game, and my recommendation after doing this for a long, long time is do it right, study, prepare, go on your own merit, and don't cheat. And get a guide like Kanan International to help you with that process because it'll help you a great deal once you actually get to where you want to go.
And from the institutional side, we just have to be really, really careful in who we choose as partners, like a Kanan. We're only going to work with people who are certified. We're only going to work with people who have stellar recommendations, who have a proven track record of doing exactly what Mark said, of doing it right. One thing Mark's been really helpful with me is, deciding who we partner with. There's no shortage of partners out there. There is a shortage of good, reliable partners who are going to be there for you when you really need each other.
I would further wish to ask this question on the part of probably 1 billion of Indians. In the last month or so, all of us have been amazed, all of us have been glued to our TVs and mobiles and whatever it is, regarding the presidential elections in the US.
I had a feeling this question might come up.
We've been glued to our TVs too.
Because truly this conversation is not going to be a complete conversation in the absence of this. There's been a lot of curiosity, I would say. I won't say panic. There's been a lot of anxiety, a lot of curiosity. The students, the parents, the consultants, and everyone in the ecosystem wishes to know more so as to what's happening on the other side of the Atlantic, right? Honestly, how does this new change of regime in the White House affects the international student recruitment all across the US?
I'm going to jump on that one first, Mark.
Please.
It's evolving, it's changing, and we're glued too, because every 6 hours the news cycle changes, and you're afraid you're going to get sort of left behind or caught up. But what I'll say under this new president, he's in favor of doing legal immigration the right way. And that's what we're in the business of doing, bringing students to the United States who are the best and the brightest, who are going to come get the best education that they can and stay and work in the U.S. The president did say, and if he could deliver on this, remember he said everyone who gets a degree from the U.S. should get an automatic green card? Yeah. What a game changer that would be for American higher education. I would love to see that. Whether that can happen or not remains to be seen. But we're talking about legal immigration, doing it the right way. What we're really hearing, what was the big part of the election in this last cycle was really about illegal immigration and doing the opposite of what we're attempting to do.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I would say, and this isn't just true for what we're doing in terms of helping students come and study in the U.S. Watch the noise, because that's what you're seeing, noise, but then look for the signal.
Great.
Two different things with Mr. Trump.
Absolutely.
He's very dramatic. We're going to buy Canada. We're going to buy Greenland. We're going to set up shop in Gaza. We're going to deport everyone. Well, that gets everybody going, right? Everybody's talking. What's going on? What's going on? But then what's behind that longer term? So listen for that noise, but then see where this goes. And I concur with Greg. I mean, this nation of the U.S. was built and is built on immigrants from everywhere. And it will continue to thrive because of this diversity of thought and people that come into the U.S. So once all this noise passes, I do think we will see H-1B go away, and we will see students graduating, getting green cards, OPT goes away. CPT will be there because it's typically part of an academic program. A professor wants you to go out and do some practical work along with your studies. But why do you need H-1B if you give a green card? So that whole program can go away. You get a first-rate degree from the United States on your merits. We want you to stay in the U.S. and be prosperous, make the United States richer, and make yourself richer. Stay. I see this coming. And, there's a lot of people going, oh, that'll never happen. Noise, signal, noise, signal. Just keep an eye on that.
Now I can agree that yes, such sort of inputs do come from years of experience that you guys have. Probably the last question of our conversation would again be an extension of the first one. So whenever any international student, be it from India, Nigeria, Iran, or any country for that matter, is investing to study in the US or any other country, the student and the parents in the long run are certainly looking for the return on investment. And that does not necessarily need to be a monetary return. It has to be financial and otherwise. What are my net academic gains? What are my skills that have got leveraged during my academic exposure in the US? What would your best possible advice be to this bunch of young students who are planning to study in the US? And how can they maximize their return on investments given the current trends?
Yeah, well, I would say what we've already said. Take advantage of everything that's available to you. I mean, the US is a vast country, lots of institutions, lots of opportunities. If you come into the US and take advantage of all of that in the biggest system in the world, you're going to grow, change in multitudes of ways. We can't even begin to talk about all the different things that are going to happen. Whether you stay in the US, or maybe the next best place is another part of the world, or maybe it's back here in India. I mean, I encourage American students to come and spend time in India, come and work here, go to Hyderabad, go to Gujarat, go to Delhi, because those students need these experiences too. I mean, how many American students do you see in the US or in India right now? Very few. Many should come here and see what's happening if they want to broaden their horizons. So again, I think the opportunities are there for the taking, and once you take them, the world is really your oyster from there.
Only other thing I'd add to that, obviously, at a place like RIT, we want that conversation to go to return on investment as quickly as possible, because that's when our story really gets good. But I think the often overlooked part of return on investment that many students and families forget about is the opportunity cost of taking themselves out of the workforce to pursue the master's degree or pursue. But early in your career, your opportunity costs are never going to be lower. It's later in the career where that opportunity cost becomes a little more expensive. But no, do it early. For me, it was my early 20s, and I'm so happy that I did it when I did it, because it's paid me back 10 times over.
Correct.
Maybe 100 times over.
Certainly yes, because yes, when I hear it from you, I can certainly get a glimpse of what you guys have been through, your accomplishments, your experiences, and certainly lots of ups and downs that all of us do see in our professional lives.
Of course. Well, and I think the money comes. So many young people that I see, to your earlier point, the return on investment is money. That's the only thing they see. And certainly it's a lot more than that, but
also fulfilling careers and doing stuff you enjoy as opposed to toiling.
Oh, and helping your family and your community. I mean, there's so much more to it, but I think if you do things that you enjoy doing and you do them well, the monetary piece will be there. May not be there immediately, or it may be there immediately, depending on what you go into. But I think of our careers in education. Most people don't go into education to be multimillionaires, but we live pretty good lives, I would say, and part of that is the financial piece of it.
I have to say, without notes, your questions were terrific, and thank you for giving us this opportunity.
Rather, I would thank Sonal ma'am, Kanan.co's entire team, and this creative team for conducting this here. I would want to thank both of you, but trust me, this conversation is going to stay with me for my life. Probably we just had a conversation of 15 to 20 minutes, but yes, it was highly insightful. And despite the fact that I am not the student, I am not on the other side of the table, but yes, I could visualize everything. I completed my studies from Canada. So imagining something on the other side of the border was not that difficult. And certainly yes, in the years to come, all of us hope for the brighter possible prospects for all of us. Viewers, I guess we couldn't have asked for more. Probably the best brains to interact with us for the topics that all of us are concerned about, all of us are curious to know more about. I can't thank them enough, because they certainly have taken a leaf out of their busy schedules to be a part of this conversation. So once again, on behalf of all of you, I would want to extend my warmest possible thanks to Mr. Mark and Mr. Greg, and wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Pleasure.
That was fun.
Thank you.
That was fun.